Small Landscape from Near and Far, The Chimney, New York, USA. Tú de mí, yo de ti, Museo de la Ciudad de México, Materia Lítica, Memoria, Procesos, Acumulaciones, en el Museo Amparo, en Puebla. Entre otras. Ha obtenido diversos reconocimientos de instituciones nacionales e internacionales y ha participado en distintos programas de residencias. From Near and Far, The Chimney, New York, USA. Tú de mí, yo de ti, Museo de la Ciudad de México, Materia Lítica, Memoria, Procesos, Acumulaciones, en el Museo Amparo, en Puebla. Entre otras. Ha obtenido diversos reconocimientos de instituciones nacionales e internacionales y ha participado en distintos programas de residencias. From Near and Far, The Chimney, New York, USA. Tú de mí, yo de ti, Museo de la Ciudad en el Museo Amparo, en Puebla. Entre otras. Ha obtenido diversos reconocimientos de instituciones nacionales e internacionales y ha participado en distintos programas de residencias. From Near and Far, The Chimney, bueno, no sé si lo están escuchando bien o se está repitiendo. Sí.
Bien, sí, ya, suficiente.
Entre otras. Ha obtenido diversos reconocimientos de instituciones nacionales e internacionales. Bueno, ahorita lo arreglamos.
¿Alguien? Sí.
¿Quieren que dé el video de la exposición mientras se hace la presentación o esperamos a que se haga la presentación?
Bueno, continúo con la presentación, parece que todo bien. Bueno, sí. Lorenzo Rocha, muchas gracias también por acompañarnos. Él es arquitecto por la UNAM, maestro en teoría crítica.
Que dé video de la exposición mientras se hace la presentación o esperamos a que se haga la presentación.
Ups. Bueno, continúo con la presentación, parece que todo bien. Bueno, sí. Lorenzo Rocha. Bueno, continúo con la presentación, parece que todo bien. Bueno, sí. Lorenzo Rocha. Bueno, parece que ya. Termino. Académico de número en la Academia Nacional de Arquitectura, colaborador regular de Milenio Diario desde 2006, director de la Oficina de Transformación Urbana. Continúo con la presentación, parece que todo bien. No. Bueno, Lorenzo Rocha. A ver, bueno, permítanos tantito, ya. Tenemos que arreglar esto porque si no va a ser al infinito. Académico de número en la...
Germán, Michel, ¿qué opinan? ¿Quieren que en el ínterin haga un poquito ese recorrido?
Yo creo que sí.
Sí, ¿no?
Sí.
No voy a platicar mucho, nada, no voy a hablar, nada más lo muestro. ¿Está bien?
Sí.
Ok. Creo que, no sé si Gilles o ustedes tienen este texto, pero bueno, el texto puede después enviárseles. creo que, no sé si Gilles o ustedes tienen este texto, pero
Bueno, gracias, Perla. Ahorita lo que estamos viendo son imágenes de la exposición en vivo. Perla se encuentra como en la sala y bueno, parece que ya se escucha bien, entonces voy a continuar con la presentación. De
Gracias.
todos modos, si quieren, después subimos las semblanzas a la página para que las tengan. Pero bueno, continúo con Gilles. Él trabaja en la intersección entre el arte y la estética y enseña como profesor en la Universidad de París, Sorbona. Esta doble lectura le permite explorar de muchas maneras la dialéctica de lo humano y del medio ambiente. Tiene varias publicaciones, una de ellas Naturaleza, Arte y Paisaje, y notas sobre la naturaleza, la cabaña y algunas otras cosas. Se interesa por las cabañas, punto de encuentro ambiguo y privilegiado entre el hombre y la naturaleza, tanto como forma de habitar el mundo, refugio, puesto avanzado y expresión de un arte. Es uno de los primeros en Francia en explorar el land art como verdadera forma artística y es miembro del comité de redacción de los cuadernos del Museo Nacional de Arte Moderno y coeditor en jefe con Jean-Marc Bessé de los cuadernos de paisaje. También me permito presentar a Michel Blancusubé, curador de la exposición. Él es curador independiente con base en la Ciudad de México, fue asistente de curaduría en el Museo de Arte Contemporáneo de Marsella, jefe de registro y curador de la Fundación Jumex Arte Contemporáneo. Y bueno, por último, me permito presentar a Jeronimo Hagerman. Él vive y trabaja entre México y Barcelona. Ha desarrollado su obra en torno al análisis de la relación que se da entre el sujeto y el exterior, poniendo énfasis en cómo se generan los vínculos emocionales entre el individuo y el resto de la naturaleza. Ha expuesto en algunos de los principales museos de la Ciudad de México, en Estados Unidos, España, Uruguay, Irlanda, Singapur, Noruega, Rusia, etcétera, Japón. Ha participado en diferentes exposiciones individuales y ha realizado colaboraciones en proyectos arquitectónicos, entre las que sobresalen la intervención para la arquitecta Tatiana Bilbao en el pabellón del Parque Xinhua en China, y la participación en el proyecto de la Biblioteca de Invidentes a cargo del arquitecto Mauricio Rocha y la participación con el estudio Langarita Navarro en la Academia de Música de Matadero, Madrid. Muchas gracias a todos por estar aquí. Les cedemos la palabra y bueno, Perla está haciendo ahí unos como detalles muy interesantes de la exposición. Gracias a todos.
No, gracias a ustedes por invitar y a participar. Es un gustazo verlos.
voy a continuar con el video.
Is Perla speaking because I cannot hear her, or she's
No,
on the space?
no,
Okay.
I have not spoken a word.
Okay. No, just
No,
curious.
I was just trying to do it silently.
That's nice. That's nice because you can really feel the space. It's amazing, Perla.
It's hard to know where to. I'm just doing random.
Perla,
Yes,
I think I've seen
enough.
monitoring video. Are they?
Have you seen what? I'm sorry.
TV or monitoring? Some video. Are they? Yeah.
Yes.
There is
yes.
two.
What are they?
Let me
Yeah.
go to there, but Michel can explain.
Yeah, they are shooting of particular place in the Pedregal, mostly two. One is the Cantera Oriente, which is a place in the Pedregal that it's after a huge industrial exploitation. They were like taking the volcanic stones to produce tar for the road, like chapopotea, we call it here, and really close to it. It's a strange place that this area have like the old like tar production unit on the side of a relief that you can go through by a tunnel that bring the Puma team, which is the soccer team of the university, to a football soccer place where they are like making training. But this soccer place share this Cantera Oriente, where after like stopping to exploit the volcanic stones for the chapopote, it returned step by step to a kind of natural state. There is lake, there is until a lot of fauna like gansas, des échassiers, des oiseaux qui viennent là, and there is rabbits, and it's full of life, and it's like a kind of preserve, a kind of idyllic a place in the middle of the urbanic landscape, urbanic and concrete landscape. And the other place that we saw in these moving images are like the mine of Tláhuac, which is in direction of Iztapalapa on the line, the famous and polemic metro line number 12. And there it's full of, they are exploding and taking out tessontle, which are these rocks that we see now on the left part of the screen. And from where come most of the little stone that we use to cover the floor of the exhibition space.
Thank you very much.
It's like a duality. Mm-hmm.
important.
The sound is amazing.
The sound is important because it's always falling, making a kind of sound of water when all these little stones are falling. And when it's windy, the sounds go up because more like stones are like leaking from the mountain.
Mhm.
And it's the visit to that place that convinced Perla to cover all the floor, almost all the floor of the exhibition space with this kind of stones, to make a kind of unification of all the elements that were on view in that big installation, or in that big three-dimensional still life, as sometimes I qualificate it.
Mhm.
Yeah, very interesting. It's
Using a lot like a 19th century exhibition way of exhibiting, which is the cabinet. It's full of cabinet, this exhibition. Until the way we hanged the painting on the walls, we use all the height of the space, which is more than 6 meters high. It's a space to give you an idea of the scale, because if we go to talk about land art, we are going about dimensions and scales. And to give you an idea, the space is like 2,000 square meters. It was a space like conceived and built in the middle of the 50s when they opened the UNAM. Fernando Gamboa, this famous like curator and museographer and man really involved in the art scene in Mexico in the 50s, 60s until his death, was part of the team that drew this space. That was open, I think, in 54 to try to be exact.
Well,
it's amazing. It's amazing how big is that.
Yeah,
it is huge. Yes.
Which was one of our like big argument at the beginning. We spent many months and many time to try to escape of the fear that the dimension of that space was giving us.
Of course.
Yes, it's true.
And Perla, how did you deal with that at the beginning? What did you thought exactly what we see now? No, I figure not.
No.
Yeah.
Let me change this to. No, it was difficult. I did drawings in my sketchbook, in the iPad, with photographs that I would deal with them. And since the beginning, we knew that it would be like inhabiting a space, bringing the landscape and the plants and everything and the rocks inside, like inhabiting a place. But we weren't sure, I wasn't sure how to do that. We had a maqueta, or how do you say?
A model.
A model. We also had the plants, but then COVID started and it was like hard to know what to do, right? So then Michel helped me in the sense that said, well, let's do parts, small parts, one by one, and then let's see how all of them can be put together. So that helped. So during COVID, I was working a lot, making small cabinets in my studio, like making, ¿cómo se dice? Ensayos,
like
y
rehearsal,
posibilidades.
like
¿no?
little sketch at a smaller size, that
but with a real
in a
objects.
bigger size in the real space.
But then
like
I
yeah,
could not be in the actual space empty till January of this year. So that was very difficult for me because, as Michel knows, I'm interested in seeing and feeling the place itself. And that's when I take many decisions. So that was very hard, but finally Michel did a plan a year ago, a museographical plan, a small one, and I must say that was the beginning of the installation here, because I did kind of respect 5 of those elements where they were, I thought it was a very good placement in the space, but then the rest was done mostly here. Like working with the space of the museum. There were moments when we thought that this could be subdivided with mamparas, como se dicen, a lot bigger, very tall walls, but honestly it didn't make much sense. So that's why we changed to the open plan. And so if Michel, can you show them the plan you did?
Yeah, it's maybe it's with like pencil and paper, so it's not really.
So that was the beginning.
I tried to fix some like nucleus, and that's most of them stay, maybe not in the place that I was thinking to have them, but we fixed the entrance. We were convinced to reproduce a kind of charco de agua, a little lake, to evoke the Candera Oriente, where there is like 3 or 4 lakes. Also a big line that maybe we didn't see well in the visit, but there was a big line of this like leader tank with water.
Yes.
Plomo is leader in English.
Lead. I'll show them to you. I'll go there and show them to you.
And we also fixed the one that I now call in a way the altar, where there is the most the better fake
iconic,
as Perla call it, which is this piece like presented in this kind of metal capsule, in this kind of original place. The metal sheet that formed that space to receive the reproduction in resin of volcanic stone are like.
This was found in Pedregal. But this is the only real rock that comes from El Pedregal de San Ángel. I found it in a median, in un camellón of a big street in Pedregal. And then I realized that was it, that this was like an iconic, emblematic, very strong, powerful rock that spoke about place and site. And the only thing is that we took, how do you say, a mold we did with silicone. We took the mold of the stone for one day, complete day. And then we did the back exactly the same as the front, because the back is really not possible to take a mold from the real one. It's a big mound of stone.
It was part of the math, yeah.
So I'll show you now the lead.
There's a nice things with this piece, because the resin used by the men that work with Perla and resin is so real that when you look at it, you cannot decide, if you don't touch it, you cannot decide if it's a real volcanic stone or if it's a fake like resin reproduction. But in a way, if you pay attention and start to think, if you move, and that when you discover that the back is the same as the front, here you can decide, and without touching it, that it's a fault, that it's a fake.
Yes, it's a fake rock. So these are the lead containers that I've used that contain water, so more dualities, and that you can walk along. Yes.
What
yes,
are those,
yes, Gilles.
What are those stones? Beautiful stones.
These?
Yes.
These are casted resin blue stones. So everywhere I go, I bring one stone, and then I make a mold, and then I repeat it again in different colors. So they're my way of apropiarme, in a way, of the place and of the. So this is a rock that where other craftsmen cut the original one, and so now I have it in resin and color. So all these were brought from different places, and then I have them like in color. Generally, I use color with the resin. So these colored ones there are the same, the little mountain with color, but they're just from before. All the blue ones are made for now, for the exhibition, and these were made earlier because I've been doing this for many, many years. So I bring them, and then it feels like I have them with me from the site where I was working. And then the best thing would be to bring them back to the actual place. That doesn't always happen, but that would be the best option for me, to bring them back to the place where they belong. For example, this branch is a branch of Teposan, which is a tree from the actual area of Pedregal. So there's 3 of these branches somewhere around there. We'll see them later. So it's a way of dealing with the local, making it with resin or with other materials and bringing them to the museum venue. For example, here there are plants, but they're casted in aluminium, a la cera perdida, the wax lost process. And they are like my permanent flora, made permanent, but they were once ephemeral, and I just found them in different places. So there are some that are from Pedregal. Not all of them, but some of them are. It's a very expensive process, so I couldn't make all the plants that I really wanted from El Pedregal, unfortunately. So, but some of them are. Let's see, what else should I show you? Or should I just, well, if there's any doubt, I'll go back to showing you the show.
But basically all the rocks, all the rock material comes from around the...
Yes, that was a bit of a problem. Let's see, when we started this project, there was a possibility, I remember, because I went and found a site where they were extracting rock from El Pedregal, and I could bring them somewhere that they could take care of them and hold them for me for a few months. But then COVID was much longer, and they didn't keep them for me. So Pedregal de San Ángel now is one of these places where the reserve is much more careful, and we cannot extract any material as sometimes we have done in the past. So in order to bring more stones from Pedregal, that was actually impossible. So that's why I did the casting of the one that you saw, the black one. Okay. And so what I guessed I could do, so all the materials that you see here, where I was thinking, so how am I going to do this? I really need to bring local stone, not very easy to do. So I decided to check where I could find more. And this was in the local area of the Valley of Mexico City, Tláhuac. And there are like 2-3 little volcanoes, extinct volcanoes that are privately owned, unfortunately, and they do extraction. And so I went to see them. One is the one that you can see on the video that we saw just a few minutes ago. And from there, I found all the rocks and I decided to bring them here.
Okay.
Then they need to be transported again, not to the same site, but the idea is to trasladarlas to other places where they will become other kind of gardens, stone gardens with local plants
But
from the place.
you would say a big percentage of the rock or the materials in the exhibit are volcanic?
Yes, all are volcanic. That is true. Very few are from Oaxaca, which it's a different kind of stone. Very few are from Puebla, the very white ones or orange ones. Most of the stones here are volcanic origin, the red and the black.
Okay.
So that was my limit. Like I had to say to myself, so what do I do if I really want to speak about this place? I cannot bring any stone really from El Pedregal because it's not permitted anymore.
Okay.
Maybe 30 years ago we could have done it, not now. I must send the link to someone that is asking me. I'm just sorry. Let me just send it quickly. Acá está. Okay. So that was a little bit tough. I had chosen stones from here, some kind of big ones, but they couldn't hold them for me because of COVID.
Of course.
That was kind of a difficult one. And then where would we keep them and not even know for how long? Because there's lots of spaces in UNAM, but how would I know how many months they needed to keep them there for me? There was no way to know.
And how long did it take you to plan and produce the show, you would say?
Like 2 years, really?
Yeah, we started to work like in, we met and we started to think about that project like March 2019. And it was at the beginning, before the pandemic time, it was like planned to open in February 2021. So with the pandemic story, it took like 1 year of like.
Of course.
Yeah, it was postponed 1 year, which is not a lot. I'm on another project that will open next June 2023, and we were on it since the summer 2018. So there is some that took much more time to succeed than this one. But we were like imagining a lot of different like shape for the show. We were sometimes dreaming to have like a dark zone, another with more light. But the space is so lighted by the entrance of natural light from the roof that we make some tests with some fabric that they use in agriculture to protect their plantation from the birds and from the granizos and from the rain. But it was not really efficient. So we decided to keep it in natural light like that and to let it open, because why to accede to a kind of big space like that and start to build a wall to make it like to make fragmentation? We decided to use it as a huge space, as a huge landscape.
Okay.
Something that maybe to open more the discussion to us, something that first
Pas Michel.
Between practice, the one that are dead, you know, the by dead, you are usually like a late installation, which make me a fun between this difference between English and French. In French, we call it a nature morte, when the English call it a still life. No? So this is another like game between your practice, Momo, and the one by Perla. No?
Yes.
It's true.
It's true. Yes, yes.
There's something else that I'm thinking now. You know, I was there in the exhibition, I think like 2 weeks ago, and the impression of the space still is present in my mind. No? The experience of walking around the gallery, and also listening to what happens when you walk upon the little rocks, the sound they make, and how also that little water pond is reflecting all the images around it, etc. And now that you're talking about this contrast between rocks that are actual natural rocks, and also those who are called fake rocks, which I consider are very real, even if they are made out of resin. You know? So this contrast
Yes.
between the words real and fake, I think when we are talking about art and nature, doesn't really matter to me in terms of the experience. If the things I see and touch and listen actually come from a source that is not produced by humans, but by a volcano or botanic process, and those other objects that are produced artificially by the workers and the designers, yourselves, the artists. In my point of view, you know, visiting this, what I can call it, this installation, like a interior garden. First, I was thinking more of it like the model of a garden, but now that some weeks have passed, I think of it just as an interior garden in the full sense of the idea, because it has everything that you can find in a garden, even if the plants are dry or dead, but there's everything that you find in a garden just in the interior of this gallery. So I think it's not very much important to me, that's what I wanted to say, if things are produced or they just are extracted from natural places.
And now that you're saying, Lorenzo, is that it's an interior, you could say it's an interior garden, but it also makes it, the space inside the building, a bit of an exterior, no? You could say, because you are exposed to, the space becomes, at least for me, it becomes more exposed. You expose yourself in another way to the interior that you're not used to being exposed, because since it's all, you know, all that material comes from outside, no, in a way. And I think it's nice that you say that it's a garden, even though it's just rocks that were outside, no? I find that nice, the idea of thinking what's outside and what's inside, and what comes from outside and what comes from inside, no? You could also...
I just want to show you briefly, there is a tiny, tiny green dot that is a plant, and then there's one more here that they're beginning to grow. So I just wanted to make sure that I would point them out for you.
And you said, Perla, that when you did this like nocturne night visit, there was like a griot, there was a griot.
Yes,
singing,
yes.
no?
All here, there were the grasshoppers, how do you call them? Los ¿cómo se llaman? Grillos, pero ¿cómo se dice en francés o en inglés?
Grillon en français, mais in English, I don't know.
Crickets. It was full with crickets. Yes, strangely enough, all this area is filled with them. All the water tank here.
You know, Perla, there are many in the metro in France.
Yes.
In Paris, there is one line, I think it's the 8, I don't remember which one, where there are many crickets.
There are crickets too.
That's great.
But it's, yeah. Life seems to be stronger than our desire to quit it.
Another thought that came to my mind while Perla was explaining about the COVID and how it made things possible or more difficult, or that she had to fit in with time and possibilities. I don't know, maybe it's an exaggeration, but I think that it's funny because a volcano is a natural event that changes so many things around it, that what we have lived with the COVID, it's completely different from a volcano, but in another way, it's an event that changes, that has changed time, that has changed possibilities, that has changed a lot of things that we had to deal with to be able to continue projects, or I don't know, it just made me think of what a volcano can change, and that we have been living in a natural situation that was constructed by natural events that had changed a lot of what our possibilities also. I don't know. It just seems.
Yeah, there was obviously a kind of parallelism which was really strange in our like pre-pandemic decision to enclose a piece of nature inside an exhibition space, and after became the time that we were ourselves being enclosed home. So, and it was making us like asking what sense it has to enclose the nature when we are enclosed. So there was a kind of parallelism here. But one of our like intention was a bit participate in this moment that we are all living on Earth, that we are more conscient about the nature and about the idea or the necessity to change our relationship or way how to deal with nature. And we are all like in front of this big question today. If we want to give some perennity to the human history or the human adventure, we have to change our way of living. I think something, except for some people like Trump, it's almost evident for everyone on Earth today. Yes. So there was also this. We were also with this work like participating to this kind of question without like a firm and clear response until today.
Absolutely.
Yes, and then there's also one thought I think important for me after the experience of not only this exhibition, but also, well, many other works by Perla, which I don't know if it is intentional or not, but it makes me think about how we sort of humanize nature. Mm-hmm. I think if you make a silicon or resin model of a rock, mm-hmm. it's kind of a way of humanizing or giving it like a cultural value, mm-hmm. To something that originally really doesn't have. And one other thing we do with nature is that we think of it in terms of good or bad nature, mm-hmm. which doesn't really exist. It's like, yes, the concept of a natural disaster is something that is only based on our perception of natural phenomenon, because really in nature there are no disasters. I mean, a volcano explodes, it's throwing fire and rocks all over and poisonous gas, but there is no real intention on that. It's only something that happens. And for example, a virus, like a disease for us that kills us, but really the virus only wants to live. So we and the virus are a little alike, because what we want to do is to live, no? And then also people think of the disease as maybe not part of nature, but because we think about as a bad thing because it's bad for us. But in nature, that doesn't really exist, bad or good things.
Mhm.
And so it's, well, for me, the exhibition and many of the thoughts that come out of this experience of this interior garden did by Perla is also something that helps me think about this humanized view of nature that we cannot help having as human beings.
Mm. Yes, yes, I think so. It's where you put yourself, no? If you're part of it, or you're just watching it from outside, or you're, no, it changed completely the relationship. If you are the, if humans are part of what's moving, you are part of nature, of course. You know, being a
But
human is being part of
there is
nature.
an aspect which was it was a kind of dream in our intention that
Mhm.
people use the space and maybe reconnect with their memories. And we received some comment in that sense. And the visit we did last Tuesday was at the end, there were that take out their shoes and lie on the stones. And so it was an intention was try to reconnect people with nature through an artificial reconstitution in a closed space. And at the end it works. And I was thinking of I quote many people in the to try to localize it in the huge conceptual production of the humanity where we were of the art where we were acting. And I quote John Dewey with art as an experience, this text from 34. And also I'll relate to land art, and this can be a discussion with Gilles, which is more skeptical than I about the relationship between the piece by Perla with land art. But there is another artist that I quote, and I quote sometimes, but not so strongly because I'm less sure. Maybe it's Lydia Clark in a way, because when we see people like quitting their shoes, they recontact with this, and I think it's sensation that we all live when we are kids, and that maybe we don't allow us to live anymore. And the piece provoked to some visitors this kind of attitude, no, using the piece as something to change, to have some sensation and pleasure at the end anyway, and to reconnect with this kind of primordial or like primordial sensation we have on earth when we start to discover where we land when we are kids. And there is also another things in that sense is that the resin works that Perla show you, people are moving them in the show. Yeah.
They're moving them.
Taking them and bringing them to another place. They change a bit, like teeny, not really in a huge action, but they are a bit appropriate the machine and playing with the machine. So this was like our dream, and at the end it's happened, not with every visitor, but with many visitors.
Yes.
Yeah, because it could, I don't know, I've just seen it in video, but it could in a way maybe make you feel like a bit like a playground a little bit. I don't know if you get that feeling. And commenting what Michel has just thought about moving the rocks and taking your shoes off, maybe it's inviting you to
It is inviting. It's not allowed really to move pieces around anymore, because they really did a bit of an excess moving things around, and we would have had to insist if you could do it or not. We needed to decide. But yes, some students have moved things slightly, and the other thing is that people do take their shoes off and make this place like their own. So I kind of like that people just make this place for themselves, like they can just
Because
se acuestan, se sientan, meditan. It's a strange thing. We never thought.
because there is
That's
I
also
think we
many
are
elements.
blurring a bit the limit between nature and piece of art. This limit in the installation of Perla is quite blue or quite not precise. Are we in the nature? Are we in a reconstitution of nature? Are we in a piece of art? All these definitions are a bit like out of focus in that proposal, maybe.
But I get the feeling that you can really be tempted to explore it, no? Like,
yes.
like it happens in a playground, that you enter this space that really is inviting you to explore, but not only exploring an optical way, but also in a scale way, in a way to
in sensitive way, because when you walk on that stone, it will produce noise.
Of course.
If you quit your shoes, you have the sensation, even without quitting the shoes, you have the sensation to be on a like moving floor.
Yes, which makes us go slower. It's like making the pace of the exhibition go slower, which for me is important, just to go slowly and carefully. You can't run really unless you're a child and go around the path, but it's part of it. It's how to pace yourself in a different way.
And Perla, can you?
Yes.
Are people allowed to go everywhere to touch the stones?
Yes.
Yes. And
yes.
So no, everything is possible as.
But you cannot. You can touch them, but I've been asked not to really intrude and like kind of move everything around. But like if it was for me, maybe what I've done at other moments in my exhibitions is that you could move maybe one big move or small, and I would leave it like that.
Yeah, which is important because most of art is it's forbidden to be touched, most of the time. And
no, that it's not forbidden.
Which is something very interesting because you are. I think the thing is you are beyond, as you say, Jeronimo, beyond good and bad. You are beyond art and nature. You are those limits are not pertinent there, and which is interesting because it looks to me, I haven't seen the exhibition, and it's interesting for me because I'm totally in a non-site, I'm in a non-site of non-site because I'm looking at that in this video, looking at something which is referring to something else, So it's a double non-site for me, and it's interesting because for me, your exhibition, maybe I'm wrong, it is more like a question. Where is nature? What is nature? What are our relation to nature? And we don't know exactly what it is now. And I think with what you show and the way you show it, it gives us a sort of reflection, meditation on those limits, those borders, those
Yes, probably that is quite true. It's if we were to talk about it as a non-site, as you say, that we get into a difficult position because it's not really a really site and non-site. Just not even having stones from the real site makes it impossible. But the idea was really to work with El Pedregal. That is true, but of course with different means. But the idea to work with landscape and nature and how we relate to it nowadays and how we take care of it, that has been part of my path in a way, how to speak about it and how to, in this museum, because it's a museum of science and art, it was kind of very important to relate both of them. And so that's why I got so involved with the reserve, REPSA, and all the people related, and they were so supportive. So there were moments when I remember Michel would say, no, wait, because I really wanted to make like a cabinet almost in the most, how would you say, Michel, very
scientific
very
19th
scientific,
century,
yes.
you know, a kind of museum of natural science with this kind of vitrine with a kind of presentation of stones, maybe their until their Latin scientific name and name.
But finally, no.
We saw in this incredible museum of Santa Maria, but I was always a bit fighting against this idea, saying to Perla, this is not your job. This is not your job. No. You're an artist. You are like transforming the things. You are, and so we escape of this little cabinet a bit in a more like
so the cabinet really became the far away. I don't know. You can see it. No, you can't see it there. It's way there on the back. And what happened is that I decided to go ahead and use all the plants that were brought to me from the how do you call it, the botanical gardens, and that they would give to me. So that became my cabinet really, but not as specific and scientific as I was going to do it. Of course, Michel was right. Mm-hmm.
But you know, in France, there used to be a lot of museums mixing art and science, and now it's more or less abandoned. But there are some still, like in Digne, Musée de Digne in south of France, there is still the part of science and the other part of art. And the woman who is in charge of this museum is very interesting because she take advantage of this ambiguity. She didn't want to give up this double destination of inherited from 19th century, and she shows both art and nature. And I think it's more interesting this way. We come back for a long time, but in this type of I mean, we come back to not we come back, but we decide to finish with this distinction in the time when it is acted in France like being over. There is, you understand what I mean? And there are some museums like that, which are very interesting because they mix both. And I think what you do could be very nice there. You know, she would love, I think, to see what you do and to show it because it's exactly what she wants to have.
Because this was like my cabinet of lithical matter mixed with some flora, and so these are really stones from El Chitle. From El Chitle, which is the volcano where everything started here. So like I went to the Chitle and here they are. So this comes from El Chitle, that one comes from El Chitle, this little one comes as well, that one. So it's true, I do go and find them and bring them back here. And some of these plants are literally plants from El Pedregal, casted in resin, not the right ones. Those are lead, laminated lead. So it's true. I come back and forth and make them a permanent in a way. This one is the first stone from lava that I made from a house in Pedregal that I asked as well for permission. This one. And these two as well. So I tend to.
Excuse me, they are print?
No.
They're real?
These are resin.
Oh yes.
They're three-dimensional. Look.
Oh yes, I see.
And then these, all what you see here, they're frottage from rocks or how do you call them? Frottage. Would that be the right name in French?
We say in French.
Oui. frottage. We also
frottage,
these
yes.
frottage.
Frottage
We
too.
also these. There are frottage from stones that have been cut to make other stones, to cut other stones. So all these are kind of landscapes in themselves, or topographies, but everything is like frottage from other stones that were cut before. So
Right.
it's a truth that it's a bit of a mixture between the 2-dimensional and the 3-dimensional. Let me just show you some here that, let's see, where are they? This is as well from El Chicle volcano. It was very difficult to go up and down, but I made it happen. Yeah, I could do it. Then we were lent these little pieces. This is photography that I made of those places. So these were lent to us by the REPSA. It's part of their herbarium, and this is casted aluminum, right? Plants from El Pedregal.
Well, excuse me, what is the photos of the photography?
The photographs are from the real Pedregal places that I took photos from. So this is photography in black and white that I took. Yes.
Very nice.
Also,
What a pity I cannot see it, because you have the volume, the flat images, the sculpture, the real things, the fake things, and all together. It's very interesting, which make this exhibition for me very, very mental, very strange. But it's something also that is part of. I think we were talking with Jeronimo just before, and I think he has an idea of what is a mental space. Was it what you were thinking, Jeronimo? A mental space with the idea that, for example, this space is full of things, but full of things too. I mean, full of feelings, full of
Yes, I was also thinking that it's quite a challenge for the public to confront themselves to this exhibit, because a big percentage of the people that would go and see the show would just see rocks that we use for parking lots. And it's a big challenge to see in a museum just rocks that you are used to see for parking lots, no? And it makes you think what they are and what they make you feel, and just to think about them as they are from the volcano that they are surrounding us. I mean, I think it has a lot of levels for the public to confront and to feel, as you were saying, Gilles. No?
Yeah.
And I think it's
Excuse me, Perla, there are blue things on the wall. What are they?
Blue things on the wall?
Up in the...
there is the cloud of blue. Yeah.
There it is.
What is it?
So they're stones casted again in resin, in blue resin. They're thin stones. I'll go close to them so you can see them. And for me, it was like a cloud. I call it my cloud. I think that should have been larger. When I see this show, there are moments when I say, oh, this should have been like this. That should have been like that. There are changes that I would do. So let me go closer. I must do it carefully, otherwise I'll fall.
Yeah, they look a bit lost here in the big...
Yes, it should have been much longer, all the way to the right. That's what I would have done now. I would have extended
it with a more
that
white
piece.
background.
But I can understand perfectly you didn't do that because you had just a maquette in your mind, and to be in
that
the real...
was very hard. Yes, very, very hard. And when I think that I just came here for the first time and I saw the place completely empty this January,
Yes.
I say, oh my God, that was just terrible.
Overwhelming, no?
Yes, like how, I mean, I understand it was not easy to come in, but I mean, I could have just come in and nobody would be here. But it was full with things. It was just full with other things. So there was no way I could just have, yes.
But as for Michel, it's a real question of size and scale, you know.
Yes.
And it's very hard to. I'm working very much with landscape architects, and kind of the scale is really in the middle of the preoccupation, and it's something difficult to understand what is the scale of a place. And
Yes.
I can understand that if you haven't been there before, that was a great deal, a great.
Well, we were here before the pandemic, like in the 2020 early, and then after March of 2020, we couldn't come in for 2 years almost. Wow. So that was a long, long gap to try to envision all this through
and you were actually a lot with the space and the scale. There's no way out of, I mean, you really had to work with the space.
Yeah. But then when I went in, I could kind of feel the place more, but it had to be fast.
Okay.
Yeah. But you manage amazingly well with this mantle space and the way you put the mantle in the reel, you know, because I don't know how you did, because it's very hard not to be there really all the time. And it looks for me, well, through this camera, of course, it looks working very well.
Well, we had almost 3 weeks to install. And there were several people helping, otherwise it would have been impossible. But it's true that there were moments that I really didn't know. And Michel said, oh, you will know. I was really scared. It was very difficult to know if it could work or not. And eventually it kind of did, although there's things I would have changed now. But it was a very intuitive work with space. Mm-hmm.
Very well done. I think it works. And what I was saying about the challenge is a positive thing, no? For the audience to have this challenge of seeing just rocks and then walking on top of them, or just feeling.
They ask all the time, so can I go in? Can I really touch it? Can I walk? I said, yes, you're just allowed to walk wherever you like.
Yeah, that's funny. That's funny.
Yes, they even ask for permission.
To go back to my obsession, we have maybe you see a path all around the installation, all around the island in the center, which is free of stones because it was kind of obligation for leaving access, so for like allowing access to people in a wheelchair. But at the end, this convert a bit the piece in a baroque calandre in a way. Now, on a calandre, you can decide to walk on the metal on the floor or not. And this is also, I saw some visitors only like walking on that path and not entering. So this is the decision to enter or not. It's yours at the end, no?
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah.
Because the path is doing all the tour, so you can really like look at the piece. I like also the relationship between unity and multiplicity in that work, because at the end you can see it as a unique work, as a big installation, as a still life, as I said, or you can after see it as an exhibition with many, many, many elements, and you can enter in detail. And I think it's a nice toy if we look at it as a game.
Yeah.
The kids that we saw inside, they were running, they were like appropriating much more like faster than the adult, which is always the case with this kind of proposal.
But I am also thinking that it has this quality that I think gardens should have, that you can really get lost in them.
Yes.
And as Lorenzo was saying, that it's like an inside garden, but it really has that feeling of a garden that you can go inside and then get a little bit lost inside with the scale or with the elements or with everything that surrounds it. And I think that's nice for an exhibit to happen.
The thematic of the garden was really clear and really present in our long-term discussion, and we were evoking three kinds of garden. No, I was like confronting the English garden to the French garden, and
the Japanese.
Perla like quickly introduced the Japanese garden also, which is also kind of present in this kind of organization of this kind of material on the floor.
Do you know the Dirk German garden? Dirk German, it's a filmmaker.
Yes.
Yes,
in England. No?
Yes, in England, and
Yes.
I've been there. It's an amazing garden. It's very small,
Yes.
but
Very beautiful. The small cottage.
Oh.
yes, you've seen that now.
I've seen it I've been there like twice because it's really amazing.
Yes, it's very
simple, small, but it's very incredible. It's a whole new, it's a very unique universe.
Yes,
and personal. He built around his cottage, and it's very unique also. Yeah, I think you would like it. I have a book.
I would like to see it.
I have a book. I'll try to send you information on.
Yes, there is a wonderful book named A Garden to, what is it? A Garden to, what's the title exactly? I always say A Garden to Die because he died there. He was very ill at the time, but it's not the real title. And but it's a place amazing because it's just in front of a
nuclear plant, no?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, and so you're along the sea, and there is nothing there, exactly nothing, just something where it's impossible to think that plants are going to grow, but they grow there, and there are some metals and some piece of stones, and just this house, and it's amazing place. You feel like being very, I don't know. Very quiet, meditating, and in a place which is not bucolic or not picturesque. You know, it's some place very strange. And this garden makes me, I think, looking at your garden, at something of this garden also, except you play much more larger. What can I say? Much more larger question than he did, but there is something inside this garden looking at your garden.
Yes, I agree. It has something. There's of a feeling of the rocks and the space and how you are standing in front of it. Yeah.
It is a celebration in a way, homage to this place, El Pedregal.
Yeah, and it's one of the big feeling that you have after spending some minutes or some more than minutes, like sometimes in the installation by Perla, is that a big feeling of peace. It's giving a lot of peace to play this place, and it's really the size of the space, like offer all these possibilities. I think this generosity of space and
you can hide. Look where I'm hiding.
Last Tuesday we crossed the 10,000 visitors, and wow. I would be curious to know how many of them are leaving the exhibition with a stone in their pocket.
Yes, probably more than we think. Yes. What else? What else can we say? I mean, I know we're getting to the end, so I don't know what else. Should we?
Yes, we have a few time, but there is a question for each one, and is how do you relate the nature and your work for Jeronimo, Lorenzo, and Gilles, please?
Sorry, I didn't get your question. Can you say again?
How do you relate the nature and your work?
Ah. Well, who wants to answer? But you ask us, we are not, I'm not an artist, you know, so it's
It's a theory. Es un teórico.
Yes.
Escritor.
Yes, I'm a writer and a philosopher, but I can say it's for me it's a big question. You know, it's as I said at the beginning, and what I like in the work of Perla is that the question is there, no, without words, it's there. Just you feel it. It gives you ideas about what. The way those borders are exposed and the way you could go further and further in this question, but no answer. It's just like, I think nowadays we have to go in changing our relation to what we call nature, but we don't know what it is. And we need to reinform our behaving in this vast question and to understand better what we are going to do together with that. Well, it's for me that, and, you know.
Yes.
Well, in my case, I work as an architect, and in fact, in my own definition of architecture, which I call it like a temporary enclosure of a portion of space for dwelling purposes. That's my definition of architecture, which is just taking a portion of all the space out there and closing it or putting limits to it in order to be able to use it. And in that way, either Perla's interior garden, I think, is related to that, to taking a portion of what's out there and bringing it inside. But also, I think, as an homage to the Pedregal, to the land subdivision made in the 50s by Luis Barragan, which was also an attempt to humanize or make inhabitable all this volcanic landscape, which before was impossible to use.
Thank you.
And I spoke a little bit with Gilles before we connected, and I also have a few images. If you would like to, I can explain a little bit how I work, my point of view of working. But basically, for me, it's very important in my work to try to research in how we solve our relationship with the rest of nature. I always say the rest of nature because we tend to talk about humans and nature like if we were something totally different. And I think that simple phrase that is been said since we are very young, no? Humans and nature. Why don't we say humans and the rest of nature? That would bring another perspective. So I work a lot in trying to understand how we solve this relationship, because I think a lot of the history of human history deals with how we have solved that relationship, and we need to solve it somehow. A lot of the religion, a lot of the philosophy comes from trying to solve that relationship. And basically my work deals with trying to create situations where the public or the people that comes to see the work confronts to the exterior. I work a lot starting from architecture, and then trying to understand architecture, that it's a starting point to be also, like Lorenzo said, even if it's a space that it's almost like a parenthesis, no, that was built, but also that connection with the outside is still an ongoing thing in architecture. How do you solve it? So that's a little bit of my starting point of how I work. I don't know if you would like to see some images, if we have time, because right now it's more about Perla. I don't want to take.
If we have time, I don't mind at all. If we have the time, that's fine. It's perfect.
I can try to do it just fast, but however you feel. A lot of you have seen my work, so maybe it's not so. I can just give you some examples so you have an idea.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, I don't.
Yes, please do.
The PDF. Where is the PDF?
Maybe we can extend Paola and Germán maybe 5 more minutes. Is that okay?
Sí, no tengo ningún problema. Podemos continuar.
Okay.
Do you see this image?
No,
Yes.
Jerónimo, pero
We're
estamos viendo un
looking at
PDF.
something else.
Estamos viendo
Carpeta
otra
intervención.
pantalla.
¿Qué tendría que hacer Hagerman ahora? ¿Ahora?
Ahora.
This image is a piece I did that Lorenzo actually invited me many years ago. He had this space on the roof of a building in the historical center, and he invited me to collaborate in this project. He did an amazing project of an edition of magazines called Espacio, Space, no, Lorenzo, and it deals with contemporary art, no, and this was the first thing. The first number was this one, no, Lorenzo, where we did this at the Correo Mayor.
Well, we actually first made this experience, this exhibition with different friends and artists. And well, just like a year after that, we turned it into the first number of the magazine.
Yes, that's true. That's true.
It was a great, I also worked in that
Yes.
space. It was wonderful.
Yes, it was a wonderful space because we were actually in the center of the city, which meant a lot. And I did this piece that I actually feel very, it's a very simple piece, and it has been very close to me for many, many years. And it's just herbs, plants that smell, and it's just the idea that you could lay down and be surrounded by them, because you always have the experience of smelling 1 or 2 leaves. So I thought it would be nice just to be covered with all the leaves, and just to have the experience of really smelling everything around you with those plants. So we did this very simple thing. We even bought the material down in the street. So everything was, everything happened. And what was really, really beautiful was that once people lay down, they stayed for a very long time. They could stay for 20 minutes, 30 minutes in the middle of the center, and they came to the noise of the street, and they would just go up and lay down and just feel the air and the sky in a very different way by just laying down and breathing, which I like the simplicity of it, but also it's very intense experience, because people.
I remember doing that and being there. It was just wonderful.
And I like that, as I was saying, that how you construct in a personal, but also in an emotional way, your relationship with the rest of nature, with the exterior, maybe starting from a place you are familiar, or you think it's just the roof of a building, no? And then everything changes in how you are relating. So this piece, I made different versions of it, which I really like, that it has grown and it has different places where it has been experienced. It has been experienced in Norway, in Uruguay, in Barcelona, in Guadalajara. So I find it very interesting that it has found its way in other places and with other people. And the pictures of the same show we did in 2005. You said it's correct, Lorenzo? 2005, yes. And I love this woman that actually brought the umbrella and just laid down.
But you know who she is? She's my mother.
Really? Oh, Perla,
Yes.
I'll send you the picture. No? And she stayed for such a long time, just laying down.
I know.
I really like it. I really like it. I'm so glad it's your mother, now that I know, because I kept that picture because the whole attitude, I really like it. I like that the work actually was made somebody able to just sit down and enjoy how they are relating to everything.
What's the plant? The plant are basilic or what they are?
Oui, todas.
Yeah,
basilic, el famoso pistú, como lo llamamos en Francia.
Yes, for this show with for Espacio, the Lorenzo project, I used mint, basilic. I used even ruda, that it's a very strong smell, and epazote.
Okay.
For this one. And then when I changed countries, I tried to find different options. But yes, there was basilic, there was mint, there was, so I'm always trying to, okay. And so this was later, it has been moving, and every time it moves, it changes a little bit. And okay, I will try to go fast, just to not take a lot of time. This is a piece I made for a very small art space in Mexico City, in Polanco, residential area. And they asked me to do a project for the facade. And I was very amazed of since it's a residential area, there were some houses that they let the ivy grow a lot. And I was very surprised they let the ivy grow, and then they cut the grass really small. So I thought for a lot of the neighbors, the ivy meant time, how time has passed and how it's grown. So it was a reference of time. So I did this piece that you could actually see the ivy made another wall, another architecture. And I was very lucky because it stayed for 5 years. It's a very long time, and they kept it. And you could actually see the ivy made even like a drawing or another architecture. And this is after the 5 years that they became like almost like waterfalls. And I was very happy that a very small piece of land, 20 meters of a street, suddenly changed the whole space and people had lunch under the ivy, which was very nice. This is a project I made with Tatiana Bilbao for a show. It's a garden made with air plants, and an elevator came up and down the plants, which was very nice. The idea of suspension. And this is a project I did for the patio of the Miró Foundation Museum, and it was based on the other piece of the ivy. So we made just a wall in the middle that crossed the architecture. And I was trying to really work with the architecture of the Fundación Miró, which is an amazing building. It has a lot of ways to relate with the outside and with the park and with the city. So I just decided to do a very simple gesture of putting a diagonal wall 4 meters high, but it made the architecture almost like a maze, because it depends on how you move through the building, how you saw the wall, and how it connects with the rest of the architecture. So it was nice just to see that wall connected with the rest of the building, and how by moving on the museum you saw the relationship with the wall. This was a piece I made in Madrid, and they told me that I had to work in a very small room in the last floor of the building, so I had no relationship with the exterior. So I had been spending some time in Canada, and I just saw how the trees fell down in the forest, and they stayed in a diagonal line, which is not a way we relate to the trees. So I suggested just to put the trees in diagonal in that building to understand the weight and the scale. This is a garden I did for the historical center in Mexico, and it was based on how the lichens and some mushroom grow in making chains of circular chains, no lines of circles, and it's just a structure that we're not used to maybe relate with. So I made this garden with just circles and how they connect with each other, just trying to use that same structure, no? And some of them were water and some of them were grass, so you could lay down. And it was nice because it was like a big bench that people could share. And there were a lot of people sharing this bench. This is another project I did with Denver in the Biennial of the Americas, and it's how we relate with exotism. I was tropicalizing a building that was also an idealization of another culture, no, the neoclassic culture. So I put plants where there were rock plants. I just changed them. This is a project I did with Madrid, also dealing with geometry and for a cultural center in Madrid called Matadero. So there was just hexagonals that you put together and made different relationship with hexagonals. And this is a small garden I did for a library for blind people. It is a project of the architect Mauricio Rocha. It's in Mexico City, and it's a little bit based on the smell beds I did for Lorenzo's project, but it's a permanent piece for blinds and non-blinds. They could share the same space or the same garden, so people could lay down. Yes, and I think it's a very nice gesture that they could share this. This is another project I work with this antenna, and I was working for a park in the north of Spain with some biologists, and they wanted to do a garden inside a abandoned factory. That the whole project had to deal with photosynthesis and how it's very important for life to happen, to have photosynthesis, and how the light of the sun is captured by the plants and then transformed into energy. So I decided that plants were a bit like antennas, and I decided this big antenna full with plants as a parallel way of looking at plants. You could actually move the antenna around. So for me, every project is very important, that when people relate to the project, they start relating with the exteriors or with the rest of nature through another point of view. I work a lot with scale. This is the Museo Eco, and I work a lot with the sun and the reflection of the light and how it moves through the museum. And I made these pieces that are bird feeders. So you could actually be in the museum waiting for the birds to come inside and relate to the piece. And this is the same piece of the beds I did in Norway, but at the end we made beer for the anniversary of the gallery. And they have pictures of the people laying down with the plants. And then I did this landscape of tomato sauce that grew all the mold, the bacteria, and so you could actually see a landscape, and it was made for children to see it and just to observe the landscape of the tomato sauce filled with small pieces. I think we're very close to the end. This is a piece I did also for another show in Barcelona that was around bees. And I had made this piece for a show in Poland that are these plastic circles you could put your head inside, but actually it's just like a vase for flowers, and it's putting your head inside.
Funny because it's pre-pandemic, because it's from 2018, but it's the aesthetic that they use to represent the COVID-19 after. No, it was premonitory, no?
Yes, it was
Casi.
a bit before. It was 2018, so it was a year before.
Yeah.
And yes, it's absolutely a COVID.
A pre-COVID, no?
Yes. But actually, it's in the show there were 500 flowers changed every Monday, and once you put your head inside, it was really amazing, because a flower, you see it as an object, but then you saw the space of the flower like an architecture, like a space really that you went inside. And also the reaction of the audience it's really amazing, and it's really beautiful. It's a small hanging garden I did for a museum in the north of Spain, in the Basque Country, and another piece for outside the museum. And I've been working now with a lot of geometry. And I did these small pieces for Aronis. Perla, you worked with the patio also.
Yes.
You know it
I
well.
saw your pieces. They were great with these birds.
And then I did this piece for the Chopin Museum based on those. And it's like, and I like very much how also the shadows and the sun changes all the drawings of the piece. And this has also bird feeders, and you can go inside the sculpture and just wait for the birds to come close. So that gives you completely another attitude towards the place and the art piece, because you have to become a little bit more invisible and a little bit more quiet, and hope maybe the birds would come. And then after the pandemic, we just put jasmine's plants around the piece, and now in March it grew completely all to the top, and it was full of flowers. So I was quite happy that it really transformed, and people were sharing it, which was nice. So that's just a small sample of how I work with nature, and what I'm interested in researching, in how we create these relationships. More than just a specific thing is to understand how we create and try to make situations where that relationship is transformed, or there's an opportunity to create. For me, 80% of my work is what happens with the public and the artwork. That's why I was very curious to see how people related to Perla's exhibition, because I think there's something with nature that people really react, because they have the need to react. They have the need to solve that relationship. How do we relate with rocks? No, I think it can transform a lot of the way we see also ourselves. for me at least.
Sorry, I have to go. I want to thank you very much, Perla, for this beautiful exhibition by Zoom, or I don't know. I would
Thank you.
I would so much love to be there, but that was not bad to look at that also this way, and I hope I will see the real thing. But it's something real also, like when this. Thank you for everybody, to everybody, and I hope.
Thank you, Gilles. Thank you,
Jeronimo.
Thanks a lot, Gilles, for participating.
Yes,
and,
really giving us
I
your
think
time, Jeronimo and Gilles. And I think Lorenzo had to leave also.
yeah, he have to pick up his daughter.
Yeah, so
And
imagine.
Gilles, you will have another involved in the exhibition. You will discover it. The traduction we are working on for the publication, in which there is a text by you, a text by Marie-Noël Guilbault, the volcanologue, that helped us on that project. There is also a discussion with Carles Canet and text by Silke from the Repsa, and this book will appear.
Very good, very good.
Congratulations.
So, bye-bye.
Hopefully, yes. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks to all of us.
Gracias a todos. Bueno, tenemos que despedir el conversatorio.
La sesión.
La exposición cierra el próximo 14 de mayo, el sábado. Va a haber una especie de maratón de 10 a 10, los esperamos. Bueno, toda la información va a estar en la página, pero se podrá hacer un recorrido en la noche por la exposición, que fue una experiencia muy, muy agradable. Y bueno, no les quitamos más su tiempo. Gracias a todos y nos vemos pronto. Gracias.
No, gracias a todos.
Muchas gracias.
Bye.
I'm very glad I could participate and see you, Perla.
Thanks a lot, Jeronimo.
Gracias, Jerónimo. Gracias, Momo. And thank you, Gilles. And thank you all. Gracias, Michel.
Very nice to meet you.
Bye, Perla.
Nice to meet you. Bye.
Have a nice weekend.
You too.
Bye,
Bye,
Momo.
bye.
Nos escribimos y hablamos.
Sí. Igual te echo un teléfono, un
Perfecto.
llamadita.